The silver ship moved through space like a knife cutting through black silk. Commander Valaxis watched the blue and green planet grow larger on his viewing screen. His long fingers tapped against the metal armrest of his command chair as he studied the primitive world below. "Another backward planet," muttered his second-in-command, Officer Krenix. Her purple skin shimmered under the bridge lights as she read from her datapad. "They call it Earth. The dominant species calls themselves humans." Valaxis nodded slowly. In his 300 years of service to the Zephyrian Empire, he had catalogued hundreds of primitive worlds. Most followed the same pattern: young species that had barely learned to leave their home planet. Crude technology, simple weapons, no real threat to the Empire. "What kind of weapons do they have?" Valaxis asked. Krenix scrolled through her readings. "Chemical explosives, basic nuclear devices, nothing that could penetrate our shields. Their largest warships are made of simple metal, no energy weapons, no plasma cannons. They still use projectile weapons that fire solid pieces of metal." Valaxis almost laughed. Metal bullets against Zephyrian shields was like throwing rocks at a mountain. "How long have they been in space?" "Less than 100 of their years. They have a few small stations around their planet. Some mining operations on nearby rocks they call asteroids. Very basic stuff." The commander leaned back in his chair. Earth looked peaceful from space. White clouds swirled over blue oceans. Green and brown continents dotted the surface. It looked like any other life-bearing world he had seen. Nothing special, nothing dangerous. "Their technology level?" he asked. "Class 7 at best," Krenix replied. "Maybe Class 6. They are divided into many small nations that fight each other constantly. No unified government, no unified military. They waste most of their energy fighting themselves instead of advancing." Valaxis had seen this before, too. Young species often spent centuries fighting among themselves before they learned to work together. The lucky ones survived long enough to reach the stars. The unlucky ones destroyed themselves with their own weapons. "Any energy signatures we should worry about?" Valaxis asked as his ship moved closer to the planet. "Some unusual readings from their moon," reported the sensor officer, a young Zephyrian named Jorak. "But it appears to be mining equipment. Very crude, also picking up some strange quantum fluctuations from their asteroid operations." "Quantum fluctuations?" Valaxis raised an eyebrow. That was unusual for such a primitive species. Jorak checked his instruments again. Probably just interference from their basic fusion reactors. Nothing sophisticated. The signatures are weak and scattered. Valaxis nodded. Primitive species often created unexpected energy readings when they first started playing with fusion. Power. Their crude reactors leaked energy in odd ways until they learned to build them properly. "Begin detailed scans," Valaxis ordered. "I want a complete record of their capabilities. Ship designs, weapon systems, population centers. Standard survey protocol." For the next 6 hours, the Zephyrian ship circled Earth like a silent predator. Their advanced sensors peered through atmosphere and ocean, mapping human civilization in complete detail. They counted ships, cataloged weapons, and analyzed the strange creatures that called this world home. Humans were an odd species. They had only 2 arms and 2 legs, unlike the Zephyrians' 4 arms. They had no natural armor or claws. They looked weak and soft. Their cities were sprawling and chaotic, not the organized geometric patterns that advanced civilizations usually built. "They have approximately 8 billion individuals," Krenix reported, "spread across 7 major continents. No sign of advanced manufacturing. Their largest ships appear to be cargo vessels. Their military vessels are tiny and primitive." Valaxis watched the humans through his ship's cameras. They moved around their cities in primitive vehicles that burned chemical fuel. They worked in simple buildings made of concrete and metal. Some still lived in structures made of wood and stone. Nothing about them suggested any real threat. Their weapons? Valaxis asked. Kinetic projectiles, chemical explosives, and some. Basic nuclear devices, Jorak answered. The nuclear weapons are crude fission and fusion bombs. Nothing that could damage our hull plating. Their delivery systems are slow chemical rockets that we could intercept easily. Space defenses? None that we can detect. A few satellites with basic sensors, no weapons platforms, no defense stations. If we wanted to conquer this world, it would take maybe an hour. Valaxis made notes on his personal data pad. Earth would be classified as a Class 7 primitive. World. No threat to the Empire. Possibly useful for resources or slave labor in the future, but not worth the effort right now. The Empire had more pressing concerns with the ongoing war against the Hegemony Coalition. Any signs of outside contact? Valaxis asked. Sometimes primitive worlds had been contacted by other spacefaring species. None, Krennic replied. They appear to be completely isolated. No evidence of advanced technology transfer, no signs of alien influence. They developed everything themselves, and they developed slowly. As the survey continued, Valaxis noticed something odd about human behavior. Most primitive species built their military installations in obvious places. Big bases on high ground, weapons pointed at the sky, clear defensive positions. Humans were different. Their military bases looked almost casual, like they were not really expecting an attack from space. Most of their weapons pointed at each other, not at the stars. It was as if they had never seriously considered that something might come from above. Sir, Jorak said suddenly, I'm getting another one of those quantum readings, this time from their moon. Show me. The moon appeared on the main screen. It looked like any other rocky satellite, gray, cratered, lifeless. But for just a moment, the sensors had detected something unusual. There, Jorak pointed at his display. A quantum resonance spike. Lasted about 3 seconds, then disappeared. Valaxis studied the readings. Probably just their mining equipment hitting a pocket of unusual minerals. These primitive worlds often have strange geological formations. But something nagged at him. The quantum signature was almost too clean, too focused. Real mining equipment created messy, scattered readings. This looked more like, Sir, we're getting a priority message from High Command, the communications officer announced. Valaxis accepted the transmission. The face of Admiral Thirak appeared on his screen. The old warrior's expression was grim. Commander Valaxis, you are ordered to conclude your survey immediately and report to Sector Command. The war situation has deteriorated. We need every ship. Understood, Admiral. How long do I have? 6 hours. Transfer your survey data to the archives and get moving. The humans will have to wait. The transmission ended. Valaxis looked one last time at the blue and green world below. Earth seemed so peaceful. So harmless. The humans went about their daily lives, completely unaware that alien eyes had been watching them. Mark this system as surveyed and catalogued, Valaxis ordered. Classification: Class 7 primitive. No immediate threat or value. Recommend routine monitoring every 50 years. As his ship turned away from Earth and prepared to jump to faster-than-light speed, Valaxis thought about the quantum readings. Something about them bothered him, but he could not put his finger on what. Probably nothing important. After all, what could a primitive species like humans possibly be hiding? The silver ship disappeared into the darkness between stars, leaving Earth, looking as quiet and harmless as ever. On the surface, humans continued their daily lives. In orbit, their simple space stations continued their basic operations. And deep below the surface, in hidden chambers that no Zephyrian sensor had detected, other things continued their work as well. 18 months had passed since the Zephyrian survey of Earth. The war with the Hegemony Coalition had turned into a nightmare for the Empire. 3 core worlds lay in ruins. Their primary weapons factories were smoking craters. Millions of Zephyrian soldiers were dead or missing. Admiral Thyrak stood in the ruins of what had once been the Empire's greatest military command center. Half the ceiling had collapsed during the last hegemony attack. Emergency lighting cast strange shadows. On the broken walls, we need resources, he told the assembled commanders. Ships, weapons, raw materials, anything we can get our hands on. Commander Valaxis shifted uncomfortably in his chair. His own ship had taken heavy damage in the battle for Kepler Prime. Scorch marks covered his purple skin where enemy plasma had burned through his personal shields. "What about the outer worlds?" suggested Commander Nayax. "Some of those primitive species might have useful resources." "Most of them barely have metals," Thyrak replied grimly. "But—" He paused, accessing his personal data files. There was that human world, Earth. The survey showed large deposits of rare minerals, and 8 billion potential workers. Valaxis felt a chill run down his spine. "Admiral, the humans are a primitive species. They have no advanced technology. Taking their world would be easy," Thyrak finished. "Exactly what we need. A quick victory to boost morale, resources to rebuild our fleet, and slave labor to work our factories." The meeting ended with orders that made Valaxis sick to his stomach. He was to lead a conquest fleet to Earth, not a survey mission this time, but a full invasion. The humans would be given one chance to surrender. If they refused, their military would be destroyed and their population enslaved. 3 weeks later, Valaxis commanded a fleet of 30 Zephyrian warships as they dropped out of faster-than-light speed at the edge of Earth's solar system. Each ship was armed with plasma cannons that could melt through a mountain. Their shields could deflect anything the primitive humans might throw at them. "Remember," Valaxis broadcast to his fleet, "these are primitives with crude weapons. We expect minimal resistance. Stay in formation and—" His words died as his sensors lit up with impossible readings. Ships were emerging from what had appeared to be empty space. Human ships, but not the crude metal constructs his survey had detected 18 months ago. These vessels moved like liquid mercury, their hulls shimmering with energy patterns that hurt to look at. "Sir," his sensor officer gasped. "I'm reading 40, 60, over 100 human vessels, but that's impossible. Our survey showed they only had a few dozen small ships." Valaxis watched in growing horror as more ships appeared. They didn't seem to be dropping out of faster-than-light travel. They were simply materializing, as if they had been there all along, hidden behind some kind of advanced cloaking technology. "How many ships do they have?" he demanded. "Still counting, sir. The number keeps growing, and sir, these energy readings, they're not using any technology I recognize." On his main screen, a human face appeared. It was a woman with short dark hair and calm brown eyes. She wore a uniform that looked far more advanced than anything the survey had recorded. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the Earth Defense Consortium," she said in perfect Zephyrian. "You are trespassing in human space. You have 10 minutes to withdraw before we take defensive action." Valaxis almost laughed. "This is Commander Valaxis of the Zephyrian Empire. We are here to accept your surrender. You are severely outgunned. We have 30 ships of the line with full plasma armament." Captain Chen smiled. It was not a pleasant expression. "Commander, I think you misunderstood our survey data. Earth is not our home world. It's our weapons testing facility." The transmission ended. Around Valaxis, his bridge crew stared at their instruments in confusion and growing fear. "Sir," the FAS weapons officer reported, "I'm having trouble locking onto their ships. They're shifting somehow. The targeting computers can't get a fix." "What do you mean, shifting?" "They appear to be existing in multiple dimensions simultaneously. Our weapons are designed to hit targets that exist in normal space-time." Valaxis felt ice forming in his blood. "Fire anyway, full spread, All ships. 30 Zephyrian warships opened fire. Plasma bolts that could vaporize a city block lanced through space toward the human fleet. The humans didn't even try to dodge. They didn't need to. The plasma bolts passed harmlessly through the human ships as if they weren't there. Then the ship solidified again, completely undamaged. Impossible, Valaxis whispered. The human ships began to move. Not toward the Zephyrian fleet, but around them. They moved in patterns that defied physics, turning without engines, accelerating without thrust, changing direction in ways that should have torn them apart. "Sir," the communications officer said in a voice barely above a whisper, "we're getting a transmission from Earth's moon. Their moon." "Yes, sir. It's opening." On the main screen, Earth's moon split apart like a flower blooming. What they had thought was solid rock was actually an artificial shell. Inside was a hollow sphere filled with structures that dwarfed anything the Zephyrian Empire had ever built. A new voice spoke from the transmission. This time it was a man with gray hair and steel-gray eyes. "I am Admiral Marcus Rivera, commander of Earth's defensive systems. Your survey 18 months ago was adequate. You saw what we wanted you to see." Valaxis found his voice. What are you?" "We are human," Rivera replied simply. "But not what you thought we were. Earth is our arsenal, Commander. Our weapons testing ground. Our forge world. We have been developing the tools of war for longer than your empire has existed. But your technology level, Class 7, was carefully maintained to give that impression. Our actual civilians live normal lives on Earth's surface. They think they're a young species taking their first steps into space. Meanwhile, underneath their cities and inside their moon, we test weapons that could unmake stars. Around the Zephyrian fleet, the human ships began to change shape. Their hulls flowed like liquid, growing new weapon systems that emerged from impossible angles. Energy readings spiked beyond anything Valaxis had ever seen. "We know about your war with the Hegemony Coalition," Rivera continued. "We know about your losses. We know you came here looking for an easy victory against primitives. You were half right." "Half right? This will be easy, just not for you." The first human weapon fired. It looked like a simple beam of light, but when it touched the lead Zephyrian ship, the vessel simply ceased to exist. Not destroyed, not exploded. It was there one moment and gone the next, as if it had never been built. "Our weapons don't just destroy matter," Rivera explained calmly. "They edit it out of existence. The ship you just lost never existed in the first place. Reality has been adjusted to accommodate that fact." Panic spread through the Zephyrian fleet. Ships scattered in all directions, trying to escape. The humans let them run for exactly 30 seconds. Then space itself began to fold. Valaxis felt his ship being pulled backward through dimensions he didn't understand. One moment he was fleeing toward the edge of the system. The next, he was back where he started, surrounded by human vessels that shouldn't exist. "Space-time manipulation?" Rivera said, as if discussing the weather. "We've been working on it for about 50 years, still has some bugs, but it's functional enough for field testing." "What do you want?" Valaxis managed to ask. "We want you to deliver a message to your empire," Rivera replied. "Tell them that humanity is no longer hiding. Tell them we have been watching them for centuries, learning their weaknesses, preparing countermeasures to every weapon they've ever built. And if we refuse, then we'll deliver the message ourselves. But we thought it might be more diplomatic if the news came from survivors." Valaxis looked around at his fleet. Half his ships were simply gone, edited out of existence by weapons that rewrote reality. The rest were trapped in folded space, held in place by technology that made a mockery of everything he understood about physics. "We'll deliver your message," he said quietly. "Excellent. Oh, and Commander, next time you survey a world, you might want to scan deeper than the surface. We've been watching you watch us. It was Educational. The human ships vanished as suddenly as they had appeared. The folded space released its grip on the Zephyrian fleet. Of the 30 ships that had come to conquer Earth, only 15 remained. As they limped away from the human system, Valaxis realized that everything had changed. The galaxy's balance of power had just shifted, and somehow, humanity had been holding all the cards from the very beginning. The surviving Zephyrian ships had barely reached the edge of the solar system when Admiral Rivera received new orders. His communications screen lit up with the face of General Patricia Voss, the head of Earth's hidden military command. "Marcus," she said without greeting, "we just intercepted Zephyrian transmissions. They're calling for reinforcements. A full battle fleet is heading this way." Rivera nodded calmly. He had expected this. The Zephyrian Empire was not the type to accept defeat quietly. "How many ships?" 300, including their new dreadnoughts. They're bringing everything they have left from the Hegemony War. "Time until arrival?" 72 hours? Rivera smiled. It was the same cold expression that Captain Chen had shown the first Zephyrian fleet. "Perfect. That gives us time to run a full systems test. On Earth's surface, normal humans went about their daily lives. They worked in offices, attended schools, raised families. Most of them had no idea that an alien invasion force was heading toward their world. The few who noticed the increased military activity were told it was training exercises. Dr. Elena Vasquez, head of the Theoretical Weapons Division, stood in. The primary command center buried 3 miles beneath the Swiss Alps. Around her, hundreds of technicians monitored systems that most aliens would consider impossible. "Status report," Rivera said as he entered the chamber. "All primary systems online," Vasquez replied, checking her holographic displays. "The Moon Fortress is fully operational. Asteroid defense platforms are active. The quantum tunneling network is stable." "And the big guns?" Vasquez grinned. "The planet crackers are charged and ready. The stellar manipulators are online. And the new reality editors have passed all safety tests." Rivera walked to the central command platform. From here, he could control enough firepower to reshape entire star systems. But first, they needed to test everything against real targets. "Bring up the outer system displays," he ordered. The main screen showed the space around Earth's solar system. What looked empty to most sensors was actually filled with hidden human installations. Weapons platforms disguised as asteroids, ships hiding in folded space, energy collectors that looked like space dust but could power entire civilizations. "Sir," reported Lieutenant Colonel James Park from the sensor station, "the Zephyrian fleet has entered our outer detection grid. 312 ships confirmed. They're maintaining formation and heading directly for Earth. Any attempt to communicate?" "None, sir. It appears they intend to open fire immediately upon arrival." Rivera had studied the Zephyrian military doctrine for decades. They believed in overwhelming force and quick victories. They would drop out of faster-than-light travel close to Earth and begin bombardment immediately. It was a sound strategy against most opponents. Unfortunately for them, humans were not most opponents. "All stations, prepare for full defensive activation," Rivera announced. "This is not a drill. Repeat, this is not a drill." Across the solar system, human installations that had been hidden for centuries began to wake up. On Earth's moon, the artificial shell that had concealed the fortress started to open fully. What the Zephyrians had seen before was just a tiny fraction of what lay inside. The moon wasn't hollow. It was a manufactured sphere containing the most advanced weapons ever created. Factories that could build ships in minutes. Energy systems that drew power from parallel dimensions. Weapons that could manipulate the fundamental forces of the universe. "Moon base reporting full activation," came the voice of General Sarah Kim. "All weapon systems online. We have clear targeting on the incoming fleet." "Asteroid platforms?" Rivera asked. "All 47 platforms active and ready. reported another voice. The Zephyrians still think they're natural rocks. Rivera almost felt sorry for the aliens. Almost. Remember, people, he broadcast to all stations. This is a field test of our new weapons. We want to see how they perform against real targets. But we also want some survivors to spread the word. We're not trying to hide anymore. The Zephyrian fleet dropped out of faster-than-light travel exactly where human computers had predicted they would. They appeared in perfect formation, ready to unleash devastating firepower on the primitive human world. Instead, they found themselves surrounded. The asteroids around them suddenly unfolded into massive weapons platforms. Each one was larger than a Zephyrian dreadnought and armed with weapons that defied classification. Energy cannons that fired bolts of pure creation, missile launchers that sent projectiles through alternate dimensions, beam weapons that existed in 17 different realities simultaneously. This is Admiral Koreth of the Zephyrian Imperial Navy, came a transmission from the alien fleet. Surrender immediately or face total destruction. Rivera opened a channel to reply. This is Admiral Rivera of Earth Defense. You are the ones who should surrender. But we understand if you want to test our new weapons first. New weapons? Koreth sounded confused. These are the same ships we fought before. Oh no, Rivera said cheerfully. These are completely different. The last group only saw our basic defensive systems. These are our experimental weapons. We've been saving them for a special occasion. To demonstrate, Rivera activated one of the asteroid platforms. It fired a single shot at the nearest Zephyrian ship. The weapon looked like a beam of twisted space-time that hurt to look at. When it hit the Zephyrian vessel, something impossible happened. The ship began to age rapidly. Its hull corroded and cracked. Its weapons systems failed as metal components aged beyond their useful life. Within seconds, a brand-new dreadnought had become a rusted hulk that crumbled apart. Temporal acceleration weapon, Rivera explained conversationally. It speeds up time around the target. A few seconds of exposure equals several thousand years of aging. Still working out some bugs, but the basic concept is sound. The Zephyrian fleet opened fire in desperation. Hundreds of plasma bolts lanced toward the human positions. The weapons platforms didn't even bother to dodge. Instead, they activated their newest defensive system, reality shields. The plasma bolts struck the shields and simply ceased to be meaningful. They didn't bounce off or get absorbed. They became irrelevant to the local space-time structure. The universe briefly forgot that they had ever been fired. That's our reality editor in defensive mode, Rivera continued, as if teaching a class. It doesn't stop attacks. It makes attacks never have happened in the first place. Very useful against enemies who rely on conventional weapons. The Zephyrian fleet tried to retreat. That's when they discovered the space-time traps. Human ships had surrounded the aliens with fields of folded space. Any ship that tried to leave the battle area found itself moving in a closed loop. They could fly forward for hours and end up exactly where they started. Space is bent into a Klein bottle configuration around your position, Rivera explained helpfully. You can move in any direction you want. You'll just never actually go anywhere. Admiral Koreth's voice cracked with desperation. What are you? We told you. We're human. But we're not the kind of humans you thought you were fighting. Rivera activated the moon's primary weapon system. The entire satellite began to glow with energy that registered on sensors halfway across the galaxy. When it fired, the beam didn't just destroy targets. It reached backward through time and prevented them from ever being built. 6 Zephyrian ships simply vanished. Not just their hulls, but every record of their construction, every memory of their crews. They had been edited out of history itself. Causality. Canon, Rivera said calmly. It doesn't just destroy things, it makes them never have existed. We're still working on the paradox resolution algorithms, but preliminary results are promising. The remaining Zephyrian ships were now firing randomly in all directions, their crews paralyzed by weapons that violated everything they understood about reality. Some tried to ram the human platforms in desperate suicide attacks. The platforms simply phased into parallel dimensions, letting the ships pass harmlessly through them. "Sir," Dr. Vasquez reported, "all weapon systems functioning within normal parameters. Test results are excellent. Any systems we haven't tested yet? The stellar manipulator is still online, and we have those new quantum vacuum weapons that could use field testing." Rivera considered. The stellar manipulator could reach out and adjust the fusion processes inside stars. The quantum vacuum weapons could create explosions by borrowing energy from empty space itself. Both were powerful enough to sterilize entire solar systems. "Save those for next time," he decided. "I think we've made our point." He opened a channel to the surviving Zephyrian ships. There were about 50 left out of the original 312. "Admiral Korath, you have two choices. You can continue fighting and test more of our experimental weapons, or you can accept our terms and leave." "What? What are your terms?" "Simple. You will return to your empire and tell them exactly what you saw here. You will explain that Earth is not a primitive world to be conquered. It is humanity's weapons testing facility, and humanity has been preparing for war longer than your species has existed. And if we refuse?" Rivera's smile disappeared. "Then we'll demonstrate some of our really dangerous weapons, the ones we haven't tested yet." The transmission ended. Within an hour, the surviving Zephyrian ships were limping away from Earth as fast as their damaged engines could carry them. The emergency session of the Galactic Council lasted 18 hours. Representatives from 47 different species gathered in the Great Chamber on Nexus Prime, their voices raised in panic and disbelief as they watched recordings of the battle at Earth. Ambassador Zarek of the Mantarian Republic pointed at the holographic display with one of his 4 arms. "This is impossible. Our intelligence reports showed humans as Class 7 primitives. They barely had fusion power. Council." Speaker Vorthak, an ancient crystalline whose body gleamed under the chamber lights, tried to maintain order. "The recordings have been verified by 3 independent sources. The human fleet demonstrated technology beyond our current understanding." The Zephyrian representative, Admiral Korath himself, stood to address the assembly. His purple skin had turned pale gray since his encounter with the human forces. "They didn't just defeat us. They played with us. Their weapons. They edit reality itself." "Impossible," declared General Thane of the Hegemony Coalition. "No species develops that level of technology without leaving evidence. We monitor all developing civilizations." Korath's laugh was bitter. "That's what they want you to think. They've been watching us for centuries, learning our weaknesses, preparing countermeasures for every weapon system we've ever developed on Earth." Admiral Rivera stood in the primary command center, watching the council session through intercepted communications. Dr. Vasquez joined him at the central display. "They're terrified," she observed. "Good. Fear makes them predictable." Rivera pulled up tactical displays showing the positions of major galactic fleets. "How long until our hidden assets are in position?" "Fleet Command reports all units ready within 6 hours. Our infiltration teams have been activating sleeper ships throughout the galaxy for the past month." Rivera nodded. For 3 centuries, humanity had been placing hidden ships and agents throughout galactic civilization. Disguised as cargo vessels, mining platforms, and research stations, human technology had been secretly studying every major species. The galaxy thought it knew its neighbors. They were wrong. "Sir," reported Captain Torres from the intelligence station, "we're intercepting military communications from 17 different species. They're all mobilizing their fleets. Against us? Some against us. Others are preparing to defend themselves against their neighbors. The Nexus Compact is fragmenting. Everyone thinks everyone else might be secret humans." Rivera smiled grimly. Paranoia was humanity's oldest ally. On the other side of the galaxy, The Altarian Empire was discovering just how thoroughly they had been infiltrated. Admiral Zeta-7, the cybernetic leader of their military, stared at reports flowing in from across their territory. 17 of our border stations have revealed themselves to be human installations, his aide reported. They've been there for over 50 years. How is that possible? They disguised their ships as our own designs. Our patrol vessels have been flying alongside human warships for decades without knowing it. Similar discoveries were happening throughout civilized space. The Nexarian hives found that their mining operations in the Outer Rim were actually human weapons factories. The Silicon Collective discovered that several of their computational nodes were human quantum computers gathering intelligence. Most shocking of all, the ancient Vorthan archives revealed that humans had been quietly depositing historical records for over 200 years. Records that detailed the secret activities of every major galactic power. Back on Earth, General Voss entered the command center carrying a datapad filled with status reports. All primary targets have been identified, she announced. We're ready to begin Phase 2. Rivera studied the tactical display. Red markers showed the locations of every major military installation, government center, and strategic resource in the known galaxy. Each marker represented years of careful intelligence gathering. "Orders, sir?" asked Captain Chen, who had been promoted to fleet command after her successful defense of Earth. "Begin the demonstration," Rivera said quietly. Across the galaxy, human ships that had been hiding for decades suddenly revealed themselves. But they didn't attack. Instead, they simply arrived. At the Zephyrian capital of Zephira Prime, a human fleet materialized in orbit without warning. The ships hadn't traveled through space. They had folded space itself to bring their destination to them. On the Mantarian homeworld, human vessels emerged from what appeared to be solid rock. Mountains opened to reveal hidden shipyards that had been built inside the planet's crust over the course of a century. The crystalline core worlds found human ships rising from their ocean floors, where they had been disguised as underwater geological formations for generations. But humanity's most shocking revelation came at Nexus Prime itself. As the Galactic Council debated what to do about the human threat, the space around their orbital station began to shimmer. Reality twisted, and suddenly the Council found themselves surrounded by a fleet of human vessels that seemed to exist in multiple dimensions simultaneously. A new voice spoke in the Council chamber. Not through their communication systems, but directly into the air itself, as if the humans were manipulating sound waves at the molecular level. "Members of the Galactic Council," the voice said, "I am General Patricia Voss of the Human Defense Collective. We need to talk." The main display screen activated, showing a woman with gray hair and steel blue eyes. Behind her, the Council could see what appeared to be the interior of a massive ship. The technology visible in the background was beyond anything they had ever encountered. "You have been debating what to do about humanity," Voss continued, "but you misunderstand the situation. You are not deciding our fate. We are deciding yours." Speaker Vorthak found his voice. "This is an act of war. You have violated Council space without permission." "We have been in Council space for 73 years, Voss replied calmly. "Your orbital platform was built around one of our ships. We've been listening to every Council session, recording every classified discussion, monitoring every secret communication. The revelation hit the Council like a physical blow. Their most secure facility had been compromised from the moment it was constructed. What do you want?" demanded General Thane. "What we've always wanted. To survive, to protect our species, to ensure that no one ever again threatens humanity with extinction." "And how do you propose to do that?" Voss smiled. It was not a warm expression. "By eliminating every civilization that poses a potential threat to humanity, starting with the ones that have already attacked us." Admiral Koreth stood up shakily. "The Zephyrian Empire formally surrenders. We offer full reparations for our actions. Too late, Voss said simply. The transmission switched to an external view of the Zephyrian home system. The Council watched in horror as human ships surrounded the planet. But they didn't fire weapons. Instead, they began to sing. The song was transmitted on every frequency simultaneously. It was beautiful and terrifying, a harmony that seemed to come from the fabric of space itself. As the song continued, the planet below began to change. The atmosphere started to shift color. The oceans took on new hues. Even the gravity seemed to fluctuate in rhythm with the music. Planetary reformation, Voss explained. We're not destroying your world, Admiral Korath. We're improving it. When we're finished, Zephyra Prime will be a paradise, a monument to human engineering. Your people will live better lives than they ever imagined. And if we resist? Resistance is irrelevant. We're not asking for your permission. We're informing you of the new reality. The Council watched as more human fleets appeared throughout the galaxy. Each one began the same process of planetary reformation. Worlds that had stood for millennia were being quietly transformed according to human specifications. You can't remake the entire galaxy, protested Ambassador Zarek. We're not remaking the galaxy, Voss corrected. We're optimizing it. Every world will be more efficient, more productive, more beautiful than before. Every species will benefit from human technology and organization. And what if we refuse to accept this new order? General Voss's expression hardened. Then you'll discover what our really dangerous weapons can do. The ones we tested on the Zephyrians were just the beginning. We have weapons that can rewrite the laws of physics. Devices that can edit entire species out of existence. Tools that can reach backward through time and prevent civilizations from ever evolving. She paused, letting the implications sink in. But we prefer cooperation to extinction. We're not conquerors, we're gardeners. We want to help you grow into something better than what you are. The transmission ended, leaving the Council in stunned silence. Outside the station, human ships continued their impossible song, and reality itself began to change in response to their music. The age of human dominance had begun, and the galaxy was discovering that resistance truly was irrelevant when faced with technology that could rewrite the fundamental laws of existence itself. 6 months after first contact, the galaxy was unrecognizable. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed Galactic Administration Station, watching the traffic flow around what had once been Nexus Prime. Ships from hundreds of different species moved in perfect harmony, their courses coordinated by human traffic control systems that operated with impossible precision. The old Galactic Council building was gone, replaced by a crystalline structure that seemed to grow out of space itself. The new architecture followed, principles that combined beauty with functionality in ways that most species had never imagined possible. It's beautiful, said Ambassador Zarek, joining her at the viewing window. The Mantarian had been one of the first alien leaders to accept humanity's new order. His 4 arms gestured gracefully at the scene outside. I never thought I would say this about conquest, but you were right. It is better. Vasquez nodded. We prefer the term optimization. Conquest implies taking something away. We're giving something better. The productivity reports from the reformed worlds are remarkable, Zarek continued. Food production up 300%. Energy efficiency improved by a factor of 10. Crime rates down to virtually 0. Humans have always been good at organizing things, Vasquez replied modestly. We've had a lot of practice. Through the observation window, they could see one of the great projects taking shape. What had been an empty region of space was now filled with a massive ring structure that encircled an entire star. The Dyson sphere was still under construction, but already it was capturing enough energy to power entire civilizations. How long before it's complete? Zarek asked. Another 18 months. When it's finished, it will provide clean energy for half the galaxy. No more strip mining worlds for fuel. No more wars over energy resources. Vasquez's communicator chimed softly. Dr. Vasquez, please report to Conference Room Alpha. The morning briefing is beginning. She made her way through corridors that curved in ways that somehow felt perfectly natural despite being mathematically impossible. Human architectural principles had been applied to the station's design, creating spaces that were both functional and beautiful. The conference room contained representatives from 43 different species, all working together on various aspects of galactic administration. What struck most visitors was how calm everyone seemed. There were no heated arguments, no power struggles, no political maneuvering. General Voss stood at the head of the table, reviewing reports on a holographic display. Good morning, everyone. Status reports, please. Admiral Rivera, now serving, as Director of Galactic Security, spoke first. All former military installations have been converted to research facilities. The last holdout resistance group surrendered yesterday when they realized we were offering them better living conditions than they'd ever had. Any remaining threats? None. Most species are actively requesting to be included in the next phase of planetary optimization. We have a waiting list of over 200 worlds. Dr. Sarah Kim, head of the Biological Improvement Division, presented her report next. The longevity treatments are showing excellent results across all tested species. Average lifespan increases of 40 to 60%. Enhanced cognitive function in 98% of subjects. No negative side effects detected. Resistance to the treatments? Some philosophical objections from traditional groups, but no medical resistance. Even the skeptics admit they feel better than they have in decades. Vasquez took her turn. Technological integration is proceeding ahead of schedule. The new manufacturing systems are producing goods at a rate that exceeds consumption by a factor of 5. We're looking at post-scarcity economics for the entire galaxy within 2 years. Economic disruption? Minimal. When everyone has access to everything they need, traditional economic competition becomes irrelevant. Most species are adapting well to abundance. General Voss nodded approvingly. Ambassador Chen, how are our diplomatic initiatives proceeding? Captain Sarah Chen, now serving as Earth's first galactic ambassador, activated her own display. We've made contact with 47 previously unknown civilizations beyond the old galactic boundaries. 39 have requested to join the new order immediately. 6 are still evaluating our offer. 2 have chosen to remain isolated, which we're respecting. And the Outer Rim territories? The former pirate fleets have been completely transformed. When we offered them legitimate work with better pay and benefits than raiding, most signed up immediately. The few who refused discovered that piracy is impossible when every ship in space is monitored by our surveillance network. Voss reviewed the reports with satisfaction. The transformation of galactic civilization was proceeding faster than even the most optimistic projections had predicted. Any problems we need to address? Dr. Kim raised her hand. We're getting requests for cultural preservation from several species. They're worried that human optimization will erase their traditional ways of life. Recommendations? I suggest we establish cultural preservation zones, regions where species can maintain their traditional lifestyles while still benefiting from our medical and technological improvements. They can have the best of both worlds. Approved. Anything else? Ambassador Zarek spoke up. Many of my people are asking when they can visit Earth. They want to see humanity's homeworld. Vasquez smiled. Actually, Earth remains restricted for security reasons, but we're constructing a replica in the Centauri system that will be open for tourism. It will show what Earth was like during our primitive period. A theme park? Educational? Experience. We think it's important for other species to understand humanity's journey from apparent primitiveness to galactic leadership. It helps put our current capabilities in perspective. The briefing continued for another hour, covering everything from artistic exchange programs to the development of new planets specifically designed as nature preserves. Every aspect of galactic life was being improved, optimized, and enhanced, according to human principles. As the meeting ended, Voss asked Vasquez to remain behind. Elena, I want your assessment. 6 months in, are we succeeding? Vasquez considered the question carefully. By every measurable standard, yes. Quality of life is up across all species. Productivity has increased dramatically. Conflicts have virtually disappeared. Technological advancement is accelerating. But? No buts. The integration is going better than our most optimistic projections. Most species seem genuinely grateful for the improvements we've brought to their lives. Voss nodded. The intelligence reports support that. We're monitoring communications across the galaxy, and the satisfaction ratings are consistently high. There's something almost anticlimactic about it, Vasquez admitted. We spent centuries preparing for resistance, for war, for desperate struggles against overwhelming odds. Instead, most of the galaxy just said, "Yes, please," when we offered to make their lives better. Did you expect anything else? I suppose not. When you can offer genuine improvements with no real downside, acceptance is logical. Voss walked to the window, looking out at the transformed galaxy. The real test will come when we make contact with civilizations beyond our current reach. There are species out there that might see us as a threat to be eliminated, rather than a benefit to be embraced. Are you concerned? Not really. We've had 300 years to prepare for every possible scenario, and our capabilities continue to grow. By the time we encounter serious resistance, we'll be even more advanced than we are now. Vasquez joined her at the window. Sometimes I wonder what the galaxy would think if they knew the whole truth. Which truth? That we're still just getting started. That everything they've seen so far is just our basic toolkit. The really advanced technology is still in development, Voss smiled. They'll find out eventually. But for now, let them adjust to the current reality. Change is easier to accept when it comes in manageable steps. Outside the window, another impossible human construction was taking shape. A gateway that would allow instantaneous travel between any 2 points in the galaxy. Once complete, the journey between distant worlds would take minutes instead of months. How long before the gateway network is complete? Vasquez asked. 18 months. After that, we'll begin Phase 3 of galactic integration, which involves expansion beyond this galaxy. There's a whole universe out there, Elena. Billions of galaxies filled with civilizations that could benefit from human guidance. Vasquez felt a familiar thrill of excitement, the same feeling she'd had as a young scientist working on humanity's first reality-editing weapons, the sense of standing at the edge of infinite possibility. And if we encounter something that can match our technology, then we'll learn from them and become even better. That's what humans do, Elena. We adapt, we improve, we optimize. She paused, watching a group of mixed-species children playing in the station's park areas. Human, Zephyrian, Mantarian, and crystalline youngsters laughed together as they experimented, with toys that taught them to manipulate matter at the molecular level. Besides, Voss added, by the time we encounter a real challenge, those children will be the ones leading humanity, and they'll be better than we ever imagined possible. The new galactic order was just the beginning.